When a pair of twins are born with an unexplainable bond, so powerful that one's strength sustains the other's life, it sets off a journey that will challenge science, faith, and the unbreakable power of love. But as their connection grows deeper, so do the stakes. Can their family navigate the miracle and the danger of being one in a million Dr. Lila Montgomery adjusted her surgical gloves as she prepared for what she thought would be another routine delivery at St. Haven Medical Center. The expectant mother, Helena Carter, had been in labor for several hours, and everything seemed to be progressing as expected. Helena, a soft-spoken woman in her early 30s, had been under close observation throughout her pregnancy due to complications. The medical team had been on high alert, but as the contractions intensified and the delivery began, they felt confident in the outcome. Helena gripped the edges of the bed, her face pale with exhaustion. "Is everything okay?" she managed to ask between labored breaths. Dr. Montgomery smiled reassuringly. "You're doing great, Helena. Just a few more pushes, and we'll meet your babies." The first baby, a boy, was delivered moments later. His healthy cries filled the room as the nurses swiftly wrapped him in a soft blanket and placed him on a warming bed. Helena's face relaxed into a relieved smile. "Emery," she whispered. "That's his name." Dr. Montgomery nodded, her focus returning to the task at hand. "One down, one to go. Let's meet your daughter." But as the second baby entered the world, the mood in the room shifted. The delivery was smooth, but the newborn didn't cry. The team quickly sprang into action, their movements precise and urgent. Dr. Montgomery placed the baby girl on the warming table, her eyes scanning for signs of life. "She's not breathing," a nurse said, her voice tense. "Start resuscitation," Dr. Montgomery commanded, her hands already in motion. She worked methodically, administering oxygen and stimulating the baby's chest. After what felt like an eternity, a faint cry broke through the tension. The room collectively exhaled, but Dr. Montgomery's relief was short-lived. As she examined the baby, she noticed something unusual. On the back of the newborn girl's neck was a faint birthmark in the shape of a crescent moon. Dr. Montgomery frowned and glanced at Emery, who was now lying peacefully under the warming lights. She moved closer to inspect him, and found the exact same crescent-shaped birthmark in the same place on his neck. "Dr. Montgomery," a nurse asked, noticing her hesitation. "It's nothing," Lila replied quickly, masking her confusion. "Let's focus on stabilizing the girl." The baby girl, whom Helena had already named Briar, was fragile. Her breathing was shallow, and her skin had a pallid hue that concerned the team. They placed her in an incubator, connecting her to monitors that displayed her erratic heartbeat. Helena watched anxiously from her bed, her voice trembling. "What's wrong with her?" Dr. Montgomery approached, her voice calm but honest. "Briar is having some trouble breathing on her own. We're monitoring her closely, and we'll do everything we can to ensure she stabilizes. Right now, she's in good hands." Helena nodded, though tears filled her eyes. "And Emery?" "He's okay. He's strong," Lila said, offering a reassuring smile. "He's doing very well." As the team worked to stabilize Briar, Dr. Montgomery couldn't shake the feeling that there was something extraordinary about these twins. The identical birthmarks, the stark difference in their health, these were not coincidences. She made a mental note to investigate further once the immediate concerns were under control. Later that evening, after ensuring that both babies were stable, Lila sat in her office, reviewing their files. The crescent-shaped birthmarks nagged at her. She'd delivered hundreds of twins in her career, but she had never seen anything like this. She glanced at the monitor displaying Briar's vitals, which were improving but still fragile. Every time Briar's condition fluctuated, Emery's monitor showed an unusual spike in activity. It was as if their bodies were communicating, a phenomenon that defied medical explanation. Leaning back in her chair, Lila stared at the ceiling, her mind racing. "One in a million," she whispered to herself. There's something special about these two. She didn't know it yet, but the Carter twins were about to take her on a journey that would challenge everything she thought she knew about medicine, connection, and the unbreakable bond of family. The days following the twins' birth were a whirlwind for Helena Carter. While Emery thrived, gaining weight and adjusting quickly to life outside the womb, Briar remained in the neonatal intensive care unit, NICU, her tiny body fighting to survive. Monitors beeped steadily around her incubator, their rhythmic sounds a constant reminder of the fragility of her condition. Helena spent every waking moment shuttling between Emery, who was in the hospital's nursery, and Briar, who required constant care. The stark contrast between the two weighed heavily on her. Holding Emery was a comfort, he was warm, robust, and full of life. But every time she sat by Briar's incubator, fear gripped her heart. Dr. Lila Montgomery remained a steady presence. She visited the NICU frequently, checking on Briar and keeping Helena informed. "She's stable," Lila said one afternoon, standing beside Helena as they both looked down at the baby. "Her breathing is improving, but she's not out of the woods yet." Helena nodded, her eyes never leaving Briar's tiny face. "Why is this happening to her and not Emery?" she asked, her voice trembling. "They're twins. Shouldn't they be the same?" Lila hesitated before answering, carefully choosing her words. "Twins can share a lot, but they're also individuals. Sometimes one twin can face challenges that the other doesn't." However, she paused, her gaze shifting to the faint crescent-shaped birthmark on the back of Briar's neck. "I do think there's something unique about their connection." "What do you mean?" Helena asked, turning to face her. "I've been monitoring both of them closely," Lila explained. "Every time Briar's condition worsens, Emery reacts. He cries, his heart rate spikes, and he becomes restless, even though he's perfectly healthy. It's almost as if he's sensing her pain." Helena's brow furrowed. "That doesn't make sense. How could that be possible?" Lila sighed. "I don't have an answer yet. It might be coincidence, or it might be something more. I've ordered additional tests to better understand their connection. I want to make sure we're not overlooking anything that could help Briar." The mention of tests made Helena nervous, but she nodded. "Do whatever you need to do," she said softly. "Just help her." Later that evening, as the hospital quieted down, Helena sat in the NICU, her hand resting on the glass of Briar's incubator. "You're strong," she whispered. "I know you are. You just have to keep fighting." In the nursery down the hall, Emery stirred in his sleep, his tiny fists clenched as if in response to his mother's words. A nurse passing by noticed the baby's restlessness and made a note in his chart. The next morning, Dr. Montgomery reviewed the twins' test results. The findings were unlike anything she had ever seen. While their DNA confirmed they were fraternal twins, it also revealed something extraordinary, a rare genetic mutation that appeared to connect their nervous systems on a deeper level. It was a phenomenon so rare that there were no documented cases in medical literature. Lila immediately called a meeting with her team. "The mutation explains their connection," she said, pointing to the scans on the screen. "Emery isn't just sensing Briar's pain, he's physically responding to it. Their bodies are linked in a way we don't fully understand yet." One of the nurses, a seasoned professional named Karen, looked skeptical. "Isn't it possible that he's just reacting to the stress around him? Babies are sensitive to their environment." "Possible," Lila agreed, "but unlikely. The data shows direct correlations between their vitals. When Briar struggles, Emery's body reacts within seconds. It's too consistent to be a coincidence." Karen nodded slowly, her skepticism giving way to curiosity. "What does this mean for them?" "It means we have to be extremely careful," Lila said. "Briar's condition is already critical. If their connection works both ways, any serious distress to one of them could impact the other." Meanwhile, Helena remained unaware of the full extent of the twins' condition. Lila wanted to gather more information before alarming her further. But as she watched Helena juggle the emotional strain of caring for one healthy baby and one fighting for survival, she knew the mother deserved the truth sooner rather than later. That afternoon, Lila approached Helena in the NICU. "Helena, can we talk in my office?" she asked gently. Helena's heart sank, but she nodded. Once they were seated, Lila began carefully explaining the results of the tests. She described the genetic mutation, the twins' unique connection, and the potential risks involved. Helena listened in silence, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. "So, Emery is helping her?" she asked finally. "He's keeping her alive?" "In a way, yes," Lila said. "His strength seems to stabilize her. But it's not sustainable. Briar's body needs more support than Emery can provide indirectly. We need to find a way to strengthen her on her own." Helena looked down at her hands, tears welling in her eyes. "What do we do now?" Lila placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "We keep fighting for her. I've already started researching experimental treatments that could help. It's not going to be easy, but I believe there's hope." For the first time since the twins were born, Helena felt a flicker of optimism. It was fragile, but it was there. She returned to the NICU, sitting between her children, her resolve hardening. "You're both so strong," she whispered, her voice steady. "And I'll do whatever it takes to keep you together." The days following Helena's conversation with Dr. Montgomery were filled with a tense mixture of hope and fear. Emery continued to thrive, his rosy cheeks and curious eyes bringing light to Helena's increasingly heavy days. Briar, however, remained fragile. Each time Helena visited the NICU, she felt like she was holding her breath, waiting for a sign that her daughter was improving, or a call that something had gone wrong. Dr. Montgomery worked tirelessly, diving deep into medical research to find a solution for Briar's condition. The genetic mutation linking the twins was unlike anything she had encountered in her career. The more she studied their connection, the more fascinated, and concerned, she became. One afternoon, Helena arrived at the hospital to find Dr. Montgomery waiting for her in the NICU, her expression serious but not without hope. "Helena," she began, leading her to a quiet corner, "I've been reviewing every possible treatment for Briar's condition. There's an experimental therapy that might help." Helena's heart quickened. "What kind of therapy?" "It involves modifying her immune response using targeted gene therapy," Lila explained. "The goal is to strengthen her body enough for her to sustain herself without relying on Emery's indirect support." Helena listened intently, her mind racing. "What are the risks?" she asked, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. Dr. Montgomery hesitated. "The therapy itself is safe, but because of the unique connection between Briar and Emery, there's a possibility that he could be affected as well. We're venturing into uncharted territory." Helena's chest tightened. "You mean it could hurt him?" "We'll do everything in our power to prevent that," Lila assured her. "But I won't lie to you, there's a risk. That's why this decision has to be yours." Helena closed her eyes, grappling with the weight of the decision. Emery was her bright, thriving boy, while Briar was clinging to life. The thought of putting either of them in danger was unbearable. Yet, doing nothing meant Briar's chances of survival would remain slim. "I need time to think," Helena said finally, her voice trembling. "Of course," Lila replied. "Take all the time you need. We'll be here to support you, whatever you decide." Over the next few days, Helena spent every waking moment with her children. She held Emery close, his laughter and warmth a balm to her frayed nerves. In the NICU, she sat by Briar's incubator, singing softly to her and tracing the delicate features of her tiny face. One evening, as she sat with both children, she noticed something extraordinary. Emery, nestled in her arms, reached out toward Briar's incubator. His tiny fingers brushed the glass, and for a moment, Briar's monitors showed a faint but measurable improvement. Her heartbeat steadied, and her oxygen levels rose slightly. Helena gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. She called for a nurse, who rushed over to check the readings. "This happens sometimes," the nurse said with a kind smile. "They're twins. They share a bond that can't always be explained." But Helena knew it wasn't just a bond. It was something deeper, something extraordinary. Emery wasn't just connected to Briar emotionally, he was supporting her in ways no one could fully understand. The next morning, Helena returned to Dr. Montgomery's office, her decision made. "I want to try the therapy," she said firmly. "If it gives Briar a chance, I have to do it." Lila nodded, her expression serious but encouraging. "We'll move forward carefully," she said. "I'll gather the team and prepare the treatment. It's going to take time, but we'll do everything we can to make this a success." As preparations began, Helena focused on staying strong for her children. She explained the situation to Emery as best she could, though he was far too young to understand. "You're such a good big brother," she whispered to him one evening as he lay in her arms. "Briar's lucky to have you." In the days leading up to the procedure, Helena's anxiety grew. She knew the risks, but she clung to the hope that the therapy could give her daughter a chance at life. Dr. Montgomery kept her updated at every step, ensuring that every precaution was taken to protect both twins. Finally, the day arrived. Briar was wheeled into the procedure room, her tiny body surrounded by machines and wires. Emery, sensing the tension, became restless, his cries echoing through the hospital hallway. Helena held him tightly, her tears falling silently as she whispered, "It's going to be okay. We're going to make sure she's okay." Inside the procedure room, Dr. Montgomery and her team worked meticulously. Every step was calculated, every decision weighed against the potential risks to both twins. As the treatment progressed, Briar's vitals fluctuated, but the team remained focused. In the waiting room, Helena clutched Emery to her chest, her heart pounding. She could feel his tiny body trembling, his cries fading into soft whimpers as exhaustion overtook him. She whispered words of comfort, though they were as much for herself as for him. Hours later, Dr. Montgomery emerged from the procedure room, her expression tired but hopeful. "She's stable," she said, her voice soft but firm. "The therapy went as planned. Now we wait and monitor her progress." Helena felt a wave of relief, though her heart still ached with worry. "And Emery?" she asked. "He's fine," Lila reassured her. "He's strong, just like his sister." For the first time in weeks, Helena allowed herself a small smile. It wasn't the end of their journey, but it was a step forward, a step toward hope. Holding Emery close, she whispered, "We're going to get through this. Together." The hours following Briar's procedure were some of the longest and most emotionally draining of Helena's life. After ensuring that Briar was stable in the NICU, Dr. Montgomery gave Helena the green light to visit her daughter. With Emery still asleep in her arms, Helena stepped quietly into the room, her heart pounding with anticipation and fear. Briar lay in her incubator, her tiny chest rising and falling with the help of a ventilator. Her skin, which had always looked pale and fragile, now had a faint blush of color. The monitors displayed steady readings, her heart rate and oxygen levels were more stable than they had been in days. It was a small but encouraging sign. Dr. Montgomery joined Helena, her expression a mix of exhaustion and hope. "She's responding well so far," Lila said softly. "The next 48 hours will be critical, but this is a good start." Helena nodded, tears streaming silently down her face as she gazed at Briar. "Thank you," she whispered. "For everything." Lila placed a reassuring hand on Helena's shoulder. "She's a fighter," she said. "And so are you." As Helena sat by Briar's side, Emery stirred in her arms, his small hands reaching out instinctively. He opened his eyes, and the moment his gaze landed on his sister, he let out a soft coo. Helena smiled through her tears, amazed yet again by the unspoken connection between the twins. "Look, Emery," she said gently, positioning him so he could see Briar more clearly. Your sister's doing better. She's strong, just like you. The hours turned into days, and Briar's progress, while slow, was steady. The medical team monitored her closely, adjusting her care as needed. Helena spent nearly every moment at the hospital, dividing her time between holding Emery and sitting by Briar's incubator. Though the exhaustion was overwhelming, she refused to leave their sides. One evening, as the sun set outside the NICU windows, Helena noticed something extraordinary. Briar's tiny fingers twitched, and her eyelids fluttered. The ventilator's rhythmic sound was softer now, a sign that her lungs were beginning to function more on their own. Dr. Montgomery. Helena called, her voice filled with a mix of excitement and disbelief. Lila arrived quickly, scanning the monitors and checking Briar's vitals. A smile spread across her face. Her breathing is improving, she confirmed. This is exactly what we hoped for. Helena clasped her hands together, her heart swelling with relief. She's going to be okay, isn't she? Lila hesitated, her expression thoughtful. It's too early to say for sure, but this is a very positive sign. She's stronger than we anticipated. Over the next few days, Briar continued to show signs of improvement. The ventilator settings were gradually reduced, allowing her lungs to take on more of the work. Her once fragile body seemed to gain strength with each passing hour. Even the nurses, who had seen countless NICU cases, remarked on her resilience. She's a miracle, one of them said to Helena. I've never seen a baby fight like this. Helena smiled, holding Emery close as she watched Briar sleep peacefully. She's always been a fighter, she said. She just needed a little extra help. One afternoon, as Briar lay in her incubator, Emery reached out toward the glass. His tiny hand pressed against it, and Helena noticed something remarkable. Briar's eyes opened slightly, and she seemed to turn her head ever so slightly in his direction. It was a subtle movement, but it sent a wave of emotion through Helena. They know, Helena whispered, her voice trembling. They know they need each other. Dr. Montgomery, who had been observing from the doorway, stepped closer. Their connection is undeniable, she said. It's something we can't fully explain, but it's real. Emery's strength seems to inspire Briar in ways that go beyond science. Helena nodded, her heart full. They're not just twins, she said softly. They're a team. As the days turned into a week, Briar was finally strong enough to be held. Helena's hands trembled as the nurse carefully placed the tiny baby in her arms. It was the first time Helena had been able to hold both of her children together, and the moment was overwhelming. Hi, sweetheart, she whispered, tears streaming down her face as she cradled Briar. You've been so brave. Emery, sitting beside Helena, reached out and gently touched Briar's hand. The twins seemed to calm instantly, their small bodies relaxing in unison. Helena watched them, her heart swelling with love and gratitude. Dr. Montgomery observed the scene from a distance, her eyes misting. They've been through so much, she said quietly to one of the nurses. But seeing them like this, it makes it all worth it. For the first time since their birth, Helena allowed herself to believe that everything would be okay. Briar was still fragile, and the road ahead was uncertain, but she had proven her strength. And with Emery by her side, Helena knew they could face anything together. The day finally came when Briar was stable enough to leave the NICU and move into the same room as Emery. For Helena, it was a monumental milestone, one she hadn't dared to dream of during those early days when every breath Briar took felt like a battle. Watching the nurses wheel Briar's crib into the room where Emery was waiting brought tears to her eyes. Emery, sitting in his own crib, immediately perked up at the sight of his sister. He babbled excitedly, his tiny hands reaching out toward her. It's like he's been waiting for this moment, Helena said softly, her voice thick with emotion. Dr. Montgomery, who had come to oversee the transition, smiled warmly. He has. Twins share a connection we don't fully understand, and these two are proof of how deep that bond can go. For the first time since their birth, Helena felt a sense of normalcy begin to take root. She spent hours sitting between their cribs, talking to both of them, reading stories, and singing lullabies. Emery would often reach through the bars of his crib toward Briar, and more than once, Helena caught Briar making tiny movements in response, her eyes seeking out her brother. Despite the progress, the days were far from easy. Briar still required frequent monitoring and medications, and her immune system remained delicate. Every cough or slight change in her breathing sent a jolt of fear through Helena. She kept a meticulous schedule, balancing Emery's boundless energy with Briar's fragile needs. One afternoon, as Helena sat in the rocking chair between their cribs, she noticed something strange. Emery, who had been happily playing with a soft toy, suddenly stopped and looked toward Briar. His face scrunched up in distress, and he let out a loud wail. Helena quickly turned to Briar, her heart racing. Briar's breathing had become shallow, and her tiny body looked unnaturally still. "Briar!" Helena cried, scooping her up and calling for a nurse. The medical team responded immediately, stabilizing Briar and adjusting her oxygen levels. Emery continued to cry, his face red and tear-streaked, until Briar's breathing steadied. Only then did he calm down, his small body relaxing as if he could feel her improvement. Dr. Montgomery arrived shortly after, her expression both concerned and thoughtful. "This isn't the first time Emery has reacted like this," she said, reviewing the twins' charts. "His responses to Briar's distress are consistent and immediate. It's as though he senses her needs before the monitors can detect them." Helena looked at her son, who was now quietly watching Briar with wide, curious eyes. "It's like he's her guardian angel," she said softly. "He always knows when she's struggling." Dr. Montgomery nodded. "Their connection is remarkable. But it also underscores the importance of getting Briar stronger. Emery's responses are powerful, but they could take a toll on him as well." The incident reignited Helena's determination to help Briar thrive. She threw herself into learning everything she could about Briar's care, working closely with Dr. Montgomery and the medical team. She learned how to administer medications, read the monitors, and spot early signs of distress. Though exhausting, the routine gave her a sense of control over a situation that had once felt overwhelming. As the weeks passed, Briar continued to grow stronger. Her color improved, and she began to reach developmental milestones, grasping Helena's finger, turning her head toward sounds, and even letting out her first soft coo. Each small achievement felt like a victory, and Helena celebrated them with quiet joy. One evening, as Helena was preparing the twins for bed, she noticed something extraordinary. Briar, lying on her back, reached toward Emery, who was sitting in a nearby bouncer. Emery immediately leaned forward, stretching his hand toward hers. Their fingers brushed, and both twins broke into tiny, delighted giggles. Helena's breath caught in her throat as she watched the moment unfold. "You two are amazing," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "You're stronger together than I ever could have imagined." Dr. Montgomery, who stopped by later that night for a routine check-in, smiled as Helena recounted the moment. "They're not just siblings," Lila said thoughtfully. "They're a team. Emery's strength has helped Briar, and now that she's getting stronger, I think they're beginning to support each other in ways we don't fully understand." The comment stayed with Helena as she tucked the twins into their cribs that night. She sat in the rocking chair, watching them sleep, their tiny chests rising and falling in perfect rhythm. Emery's hand rested on the edge of his crib, as if reaching for Briar even in his sleep. Briar, for her part, seemed more peaceful than Helena had ever seen her. For the first time since their journey began, Helena allowed herself to feel hope, not the fragile, fleeting hope she had clung to in the NICU, but a deeper, steadier kind. Briar was still fragile, and there was a long road ahead, but she wasn't fighting alone. Emery's strength and their unbreakable bond gave her faith that they would overcome whatever challenges lay ahead. "Sleep well, my loves," she whispered, brushing a kiss against each of their foreheads. "We're in this together." Weeks turned into months, and Briar's progress continued to surprise everyone. Though she still required regular checkups and occasional interventions, she was thriving in ways Helena had once only dared to dream. Her laughter filled the room as she and Emery played together, their connection as strong as ever. They had become inseparable, their bond not only unexplainable but undeniable. One bright morning, Helena brought the twins to St. Haven Medical Center for a follow-up appointment with Dr. Montgomery. Emery sat in his stroller, his chubby hands clutching a stuffed bear, while Briar rested in her car seat, her curious eyes scanning the bustling lobby. The sight of both her children healthy and alert filled Helena with a deep sense of gratitude. When they arrived at Dr. Montgomery's office, the doctor greeted them with a warm smile. "Look at these two," she said, crouching to greet the twins. "Briar, you look stronger every time I see you. And Emery, keeping an eye on your sister as usual, I see." Helena smiled. He never lets her out of his sight. As they settled in, Lila began her routine checks. She examined Briar carefully, noting her steady heart rate and improved lung function. "She's made incredible progress," Lila said, jotting notes in her chart. "Her immune system is still delicate, but she's hitting milestones we weren't sure she'd reach." Helena exhaled deeply, the weight of those words sinking in. "Does this mean she'll be okay?" she asked cautiously. Lila nodded, her expression confident. "Briar still has challenges ahead, but with continued care, there's no reason she can't lead a full and healthy life. You've done an amazing job, Helena." Helena's eyes filled with tears as she looked at Briar, who was now reaching for Emery's bear. "It's not just me," she said softly. "They've done this together." Lila glanced at Emery, who was now holding out the bear to Briar with a triumphant grin. "They're remarkable," she agreed. "Their connection isn't just a medical anomaly, it's a source of strength for both of them." After the appointment, Helena decided to treat the twins to an afternoon in the park. She spread out a blanket on the grass, watching as Emery crawled toward a pile of toys while Briar sat beside him, her movements slower but determined. The sunlight danced on their skin, their laughter blending with the sounds of chirping birds and children playing nearby. As Helena watched them, she couldn't help but reflect on how far they had come. The fragile, uncertain days in the NICU felt like a distant memory compared to the vibrant lives her children were now living. Yet, she knew their journey wasn't over. Briar still faced medical challenges, and Emery's connection to her meant he would continue to share her struggles in ways neither of them fully understood. That evening, back at home, Helena noticed something unusual. Emery, who was typically full of energy, seemed unusually quiet. He refused his dinner, pushing away his plate with a small whimper, and his usually bright eyes looked dull. "Are you feeling okay, buddy?" Helena asked, kneeling beside him and placing a hand on his forehead. He felt warm, too warm. Helena's heart sank. She carried him to the couch, wrapping him in a blanket as she checked his temperature. It was slightly elevated, but not alarming. Still, her instincts told her something wasn't right. At that moment, Briar let out a small cry from her crib, her voice weak and uncharacteristically soft. Helena rushed to her side, her pulse quickening as she noticed Briar's face pale and her breathing shallow. "No," Helena whispered, panic rising in her chest. "Not both of you." She immediately called Dr. Montgomery, her voice trembling as she explained the situation. "They're both showing signs of distress," she said. "Emery's feverish, and Briar's breathing is off." "Bring them in immediately," Lila instructed. "We'll be ready." The drive to the hospital was a blur of fear and adrenaline. Helena kept glancing at the twins in the back seat, whispering reassurances even as her mind raced with worst-case scenarios. By the time they arrived, the medical team was already waiting, and the twins were whisked away for evaluation. Dr. Montgomery appeared minutes later, her presence a calming force amid the chaos. "We'll run tests and stabilize them," she said firmly. "Stay close, I'll keep you updated." Hours passed, each one stretching unbearably as Helena paced the waiting room. Memories of the NICU flooded her mind, the beeping monitors and the uncertainty of each day. Just when she thought she couldn't take another moment, Lila returned. "They're stable," she said, her voice calm but serious. "Emery has a mild viral infection, it's nothing we can't manage." But Briar's immune system reacted strongly, and it caused her to struggle more than we'd like. "She's responding to treatment now." Helena sagged into a chair, relief and exhaustion washing over her. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Lila sat beside her, her tone gentle. "This is a reminder of how unique their connection is. Emery's illness likely triggered Briar's response. It's something we'll need to monitor closely, but it's also a testament to how deeply they're linked." Helena nodded, her mind spinning with both worry and gratitude. She knew the road ahead would continue to test them, but she also knew one thing for certain: Emery and Briar were stronger together, and together, they could overcome anything. The days following the twins' hospitalization were a sobering reminder of how fragile their connection could be. Though both Emery and Briar recovered quickly, the incident left Helena shaken. She couldn't help but replay the moments in her mind: Emery's fever, Briar's pale face, the panic that gripped her as she rushed them to the hospital. It was a stark reminder that their bond, while miraculous, also made them uniquely vulnerable. Back at home, Helena adjusted their routine to prioritize caution. She became even more vigilant about keeping their environment clean and avoiding potential sources of illness. Every sniffle or cough became a cause for concern, and she found herself constantly checking their temperatures, scanning for any signs of distress. Despite her worries, the twins seemed to bounce back with their usual energy. Emery resumed his playful antics, often crawling after Briar to hand her a toy or sit beside her during feedings. Briar, now noticeably stronger, began hitting developmental milestones that had once seemed out of reach. She babbled more often, reached for objects with growing confidence, and even attempted to pull herself into a sitting position with Emery's encouragement. One afternoon, as the twins played on a soft mat in the living room, Helena noticed something extraordinary. Briar, who had been lying on her stomach, reached out to Emery with a determined look in her eyes. Emery, as if sensing her intent, crawled over to her and extended his hand. With his support, Briar slowly pushed herself upright, her tiny legs trembling with the effort. "You're doing it, Briar!" Helena exclaimed, tears welling in her eyes as she watched her daughter sit up for the first time. "You're so strong." Emery clapped his hands, letting out a delighted giggle as if he fully understood the magnitude of the moment. He stayed close to Briar, his presence steady and reassuring, as she adjusted to her new position. Helena quickly grabbed her phone to capture the moment, her heart swelling with pride. As she watched the twins interact, she realized how much Emery's support had contributed to Briar's progress. It wasn't just their connection, it was Emery's innate protectiveness and encouragement that had helped his sister thrive. Later that evening, Helena shared the video with Dr. Montgomery during their regular check-in. "Briar sat up for the first time today," Helena said, her voice filled with joy. "Emery helped her. It was like he knew exactly what she needed." Dr. Montgomery smiled, her eyes softening as she watched the video. "Their bond continues to amaze me," she said. "It's clear that Emery plays an integral role in Briar's development. They're not just connected biologically, they're partners in every sense of the word." As the weeks passed, Briar continued to grow stronger, her movements more confident and deliberate. She still relied on Emery's support at times, but she was beginning to explore the world on her own terms. For Helena, it was both thrilling and bittersweet to watch her children grow so quickly. The challenges they had faced had forged a deep resilience in both of them, and their bond remained unshakable. One evening, as Helena tucked the twins into their cribs, she sat between them and began to tell them a story. "Once upon a time," she began, "there were two little stars who shared a special light. No matter how dark the sky became, they always shined brightest when they were together." Briar reached out her hand, her tiny fingers brushing against Emery's through the bars of their cribs. Emery responded with a soft coo, his gaze fixed on his sister. Helena smiled, her heart full as she watched them connect in their own quiet way. "You two are my little stars," she whispered, leaning down to kiss their foreheads. "And together, there's nothing you can't do." As the twins drifted off to sleep, their breathing synchronized in perfect harmony, Helena allowed herself a moment of peace. She knew their journey was far from over, there would be more challenges, more moments of fear and uncertainty. But she also knew that Emery and Briar would face it all together, their bond an unbreakable source of strength and love. Dr. Montgomery's words echoed in her mind, their partners in every sense of the word. And as Helena sat in the soft glow of the nursery's nightlight, she felt a deep sense of gratitude for the miracle of her twins and the unshakable connection that had carried them through their darkest days. A year had passed since the day Briar and Emery came home from the hospital, and their journey had been nothing short of miraculous. Helena stood in the kitchen, frosting a small cake for their first birthday. The sound of their laughter echoed from the living room, where the twins played on a soft mat surrounded by colorful toys. It was a sound she never tired of hearing, a reminder of how far they had come. As she finished decorating the cake, Helena placed 2 tiny candles shaped like stars on top. It was a symbolic choice, inspired by the story she often told them about 2 little stars shining brightest together. She wiped her hands on a dish towel and stepped into the living room, where Emery was handing a toy to Briar, who accepted it with an excited giggle. "Are you ready for your birthday celebration?" Helena asked, crouching down beside them. Emery looked up and clapped his hands, while Briar smiled and reached for her mother's outstretched hand. Helena carefully picked up both children and carried them to the kitchen, where she had set up a small table with their cake and a few gifts. Though it was a modest celebration, it felt monumental, a testament to the strength, resilience, and love that had carried them through the past year. As they sat together, Helena placed the cake in front of them and lit the candles. "Make a wish, my little stars," she said softly. Emery stared at the flickering flames with wide eyes, while Briar leaned forward, her expression filled with curiosity. Helena leaned in to blow out the candles for them, the sight of the twins sitting side by side filling her heart with gratitude. "Happy birthday, my loves," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. After cutting small slices of cake for the twins, Helena watched as Emery eagerly dug in, frosting smearing across his cheeks. Briar, ever the cautious one, examined her slice carefully before taking a small bite. The sight of them enjoying such a simple yet profound moment brought tears to Helena's eyes. The doorbell rang, breaking her reverie. She wiped her hands and opened the door to find Dr. Montgomery standing there, holding a brightly wrapped gift. "I hope I'm not too late for the party," Lila said with a warm smile. "Not at all," Helena replied, stepping aside to let her in. "The guest of honor just tried cake for the first time." Lila laughed as she entered the kitchen, where the twins greeted her with excited babbles. She knelt beside them, handing the gift to Briar, who immediately began tugging at the ribbon. "They've come so far," Lila said, looking at Helena. "You've done an incredible job, Helena. Seeing them like this, it's what every doctor hopes for." Helena smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "I couldn't have done it without you. You never gave up on them, even when things seemed impossible." Lila shook her head. "It wasn't just me. These two have a bond that defies logic. Emery's strength, Briar's determination, they've carried each other through this journey." As the afternoon wore on, Helena and Lila watched the twins play, their giggles filling the room. Emery handed Briar a soft block, and she responded by reaching out to touch his hand. It was a small gesture, but it spoke volumes about their connection. "They've always known they're stronger together," Helena said softly, her gaze never leaving her children. By the time the sun began to set, the twins were tired but happy, their energy spent from a day filled with love and laughter. Helena carried them to their nursery, tucking them into their cribs and sitting between them as she always did. Once upon a time, she began, her voice gentle, there were two little stars who shared a special light. No matter how dark the sky became, they always shined brightest when they were together. Briar reached for Emery through the bars of her crib, and he responded with a soft coo, their tiny fingers brushing. Helena smiled, leaning down to kiss each of their foreheads. "Good night, my stars," she whispered. "You've already made my biggest wish come true." As she turned off the light and left the room, Helena paused in the doorway, watching the twins sleep peacefully. Their breathing was synchronized, their bond as unshakable as ever. It had been a year of challenges, heartbreak, and miracles, but through it all, they had proved that love and connection could overcome even the greatest odds. For Helena, Emery, and Briar, the future was no longer a question mark, it was a bright, shining light, filled with endless possibilities. This story is a poignant reminder of the incredible resilience of the human spirit and the profound connections that can exist between loved ones. Emery and Briar's journey, filled with trials and triumphs, shows us that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, hope and love can prevail. Their unexplainable bond, which defied logic and science, was not just a medical phenomenon, it was a testament to the strength of family and the power of unity. Helena's unwavering dedication to her children is a beautiful example of a mother's love. She faced unimaginable challenges, yet never lost her resolve to fight for both her children. Her courage and selflessness remind us of the sacrifices parents make to give their children the best chance at life. In the end, this story isn't just about survival, it's about connection, determination, and the belief that even the smallest glimmers of hope can lead to extraordinary outcomes. It leaves us with a message that resonates deeply: together, we are stronger than we could ever be alone.